This is the Interpretation Act of Canada, Article 35. And it says, in every enactment, person, or any word or expression descriptive of a person includes a corporation. Black Laws, 9th edition, artificial person. An entity such as a corporation, created by law and given certain legal rights and duties of a human being. A being real or imaginary, who, for the purpose of legal reasoning, is treated more or less as a human being. This is the Income Tax Act for the Canadian Revenue Agency. Now look what it says. An act respecting income taxes. Application provisions are not included in the consolidated text. See relevant amending regulations. Short title. Then it goes into Article 1. This act may be cited as the Income Tax Act. Most every enactment, regulation that has been given force of law, royal assent by the Governor General, when you look at the law, when you go to read it, you'll see there's an interpretation section. It's called the preamble of the enactment. And in this interpretation section, they'll redefine words. So they'll tell you like a car means this, or a person means this in this act. They redefine the words. When you look into the preamble or the interpretation section of the Income Tax Act, it's now been removed. I know, I've been reading this act for many years, and it's always been present. Recently, it would have to be within the past 2 to 3 months, they removed the preamble section of the act, the interpretation section of the act, wherein which they redefine the words. It's still applicable to the enactment, but they say that this is the short version. We don't have the long version, so we're not gonna. You don't have the definition or the redefinition of the words available to you. Now, in the Interpretation Act of Canada, I hope you saw the video that I made concerning that. In the Interpretation Act, which is a federal enactment, it says in that enactment that in every enactment, okay? So in every enactment that they make, whether it's municipal taxation or highway safety code or whatever enactment that they make, whatever laws that they create, the word person, it includes a corporation. And we know that using this expression here, includes, means that whatever they've enumerated, a corporation, is the only thing, or the only description of that word. So here when it says person includes a corporation, it means person only refers to a corporation. And that's it. So when you're reading every enactment or every law that's been made, when you see the word person, you have to remember that it includes only a corporation, which means that the word person is only an artificial person or a corporation. Unless, in that enactment that you're reading specifically, in the interpretation section of that enactment, there's been a redefinition of the word person. Then that redefinition of the word person will apply. And it won't be the definition that you find in the Interpretation Act. In the Income Tax Act, the preamble that was there before they removed it, they had the words defined, the definition of the words. And taxpayer was written includes any person, whether or not liable to pay tax. And a corporation includes an incorporated company. And in the Taxation Act, the word person, or any word or expression descriptive of a person, includes any corporation and any entity exempt because of subsection 149. But the word person in the Income Tax Act includes any corporation. So we find out then from the Interpretation Act of Canada that the word person means a legal person or a juridical personality, a juridical person. That's what the word person refers to. Now when you look in the Income Tax Act, when you look to the preamble, to the interpretation sections that describe the words, you're going to find, if it was still written there, if they didn't hide it on us, you would have found that it said the word person or any word or expression descriptive of a person includes any corporation. So here again, they use the same phrasing, they use the same paraphrasing as they did in the interpretation section. So the word person, or any word or expression that describes a person, whether natural or artificial, then it includes a corporation. So it means a corporation. So we're back again to the beginning. It means a juridical personality or a legal person. So in the Income Tax Act, when you see the word person defined, it will always be referring to a legal person, a juridical personality. Now, that is showed forth even more when you look through the Act, because everywhere it states a person includes a partnership. A person includes a partnership. So that's just another way of the law defining for us what exactly is this word person meaning. What is it designating? And that is the legal person. This is the Income Tax Act, Article 79. Now look what it says. Definitions. In this section, scroll down, a person includes a partnership. See, person includes a partnership. Income Tax Act, Article 79.1. In this section, now scroll down, look towards the bottom, it says person has the meaning assigned by subsection 79, open bracket, 1 close bracket, where it says a person includes a partnership. The Income Tax Act, Article 80. In this section, person includes a partnership. Income Tax Act, Article 139.1. Person includes a partnership. So we have that legal person, that artificial person, the corporation, that you could call it also. Well, that legal person, as you've learned, is a Canadian citizen, that artificial person. That Canadian citizen is the subject, the one who owes allegiance to Her Majesty and is in servitude. Now I want you to notice that word specifically. Servitude. Is in servitude to Canada and to the Queen, Her Majesty. Now, it's the Canadian citizen that owes the income tax. Therefore, it's the artificial person that owes the income tax. And the CRA, as you saw in my other video, Her Majesty's taxation, the CRA is an agent of Her Majesty, collecting this income tax from the Canadian citizen on behalf of Her Majesty through the artificial person, because that's what the Canadian citizen is. Nowhere does any of this touch a human being. As much as the court systems, federal or provincial, want to kick and scream like a spoiled child, nowhere in any of this does this apply to the human being. And now, I said to you, pay particular attention to the word servitude. And here's why. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 6. Everyone has the right, not the obligation, but the right, to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 16. Everyone shall have the right, not the obligation, to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. So everyone, the human being, has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. So everyone has the right to recognition as a person everywhere before the law. That's a right you can express. The human being can enter into recognition as a person. When you do so, you become or you render yourself an artificial person, that Canadian citizen. And that Canadian citizen is a subject that is in servitude to the Queen and to the laws of Canada, including the Income Tax Act. Now, that subject owes taxes and must pay. Must pay. Now remember, everyone has the right to take recognition as a person before the law. And if you do so, here's the burden you're bearing. Hope you have a heavy bag, because it's a heavy burden. But that international laws, the Human Rights and Freedoms Laws does not state that everyone has an obligation to enter into recognition as a person. You have a right you can exercise. You can exercise it. You can become a servant. You can be held in servitude to Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, in right of Canada. That's a right you can express. You can walk under that. But it's not an obligation, because the human being does not have an obligation to enter into recognition as a person everywhere. And when they try to force you to enter into recognition as that person, as that Canadian citizen, then they're holding you in servitude. They're holding you in slavery to a commercial system where the head thereof is the Queen. The Canadian Citizenship Act. Oath or affirmation of citizenship. I swear or affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors, and that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 4. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. All their forms. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 8. No one shall be held in slavery. Slavery and the slave trade in all their forms shall be prohibited. No one shall be held in servitude. In the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, we find these expressions of law ever present for the human being, for the man or the woman. And it states this, that no one shall be held in slavery or servitude. No one. Now, this is a fundamental right and a fundamental freedom that I am guaranteed and that you are guaranteed. Whether you accept it or not, whether you use it or not, that's up to you. But nevertheless, other men and women decided, after having experienced war and difficulties and poverty, and having looked over the world and seen what was going on through each independent government system, decided that they would extend these rights to human beings, to men and women, everywhere on planet Earth. And those rights say that no one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Well, when you look here in Canada, the Queen, the way the system is set up, that Canadian citizen who's rendered a subject and owes allegiance to Her Majesty and is in servitude to Her Majesty, that's the one that has to pay taxes according to their laws, according to what they set up. Now you as a human being, as a man and woman, you don't have to be held in servitude. You don't have to be held in servitude. Their commercial system that they're running upon our backs here says no one shall be held in servitude. So if I come to you and I tell you, listen, I refuse to take recognition as that legal person. I refuse to be recognized as a subject and a servant of Her Queen when it comes to this, paying taxes, income taxes. I'm a human being. I'm making a living for myself as a human being, not as a legal person. And if you refuse to recognize that right, then you're actually holding me in servitude, and you're worse than the German government back when they started World War II. You just do it with words instead of with guns to my face. Because you'll rob from me and you'll take from my earnings, you'll take from my life, all with words. And when I try to stand up and say, no, I have a right, I can express a right, I don't have to be part of this commercial system. I have human rights and freedoms that allows me to walk away from what you're trying to do to me. Those in the position of de facto power will get upset. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 21. Everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country, directly or through freely chosen representatives. This is from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 21. Although this is not a binding covenant upon Canada, this is what ultimately led to the international covenants which are binding documentations or binding agreements upon Canada. So in Article 21, we see this expression. They said that man or human beings should have this right, that everyone has a right to partake in the government directly or through representation. Now notice that it doesn't say everyone has the obligation to partake in the government directly or through representation. Everyone has a right. This is a right you can exercise or you cannot. It's up to you. Now, apply that when you're talking about income taxes, when you're talking about being held in servitude to the Queen. It says that you have a right to partake in this system of governance that's going on here in Canada. You have the right to be rendered a subject. You have the right to be held in servitude. You have the right to partake of this, and you have the right to pay your income taxes because they request this of you under this artificial system. But you also have another right. You have a right to say, no. No, I will not. I'm a human being. I have fundamental rights and fundamental freedoms that are superior to all this, and I don't want to partake of all this. I don't want to be robbed from. I don't want to be damaged anymore.